Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I am going to be recommending you 5 beginner grimdark fantasy books. I love grimdark and it is a big part of what I read and it's going to be a big part of what I continue to read. So I get a lot of questions on BookTube, on Reddit, on Twitter. What grimdark books should I start with? So here are 5 books or series that I think you should give a try if you are a beginner. So the first one is going to be very obvious because I feel like everyone recommends this, and that is the first Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I talked about this series a lot on my channel. I've talked about Joe Abercrombie a lot on my channel. A lot of people call him Lord Grimdark because he calls himself that, ironically, on Twitter. It's very much low fantasy, so if you're somebody like me who doesn't need like tons of magic and tons of crazy wacky stuff happening, it feels very grounded in reality, even though it's not set in our world, but it's set in a version of our world. It's funny, there's a lot of really great sarcastic British humor, which is my humor. It's very cutting. There's a lot of very morally grey, very unlikable characters, but yet you still root for them. You still feel like there is something to them. There is some piece of humanity left in them, and that makes you feel very engaged with the characters. There's a lot of really cool world building. I mean, some people call it quite simplistic, but hey, you like what you like, right? And I quite enjoy the world building. I think it gives you quite a good image of what this world looks like and what each of the different places look like. They all feel quite distinct. There is this wonderful focus. Joe Abercrombie is a very character-focused writer, and we just get these really wonderful fleshed out individuals who, like I said, might not be the nicest people in the world. In fact, they're very awful people, but yet they feel compelling because they're so fleshed out and because they feel, at least to me, quite relatable. Though for a lot of people, I don't think they do. So I don't know what that says about me, but there we go. So that's the first one that I would definitely recommend. The next one is a standalone. So if you just want to get a flavour, then I think this is a good one to read. And that is the Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnston. Very quick read, very fast paced, lots happening. Premise is very simple. Basically following a ragtag group of misfits who are trying to save a town. They all have their own motivations for doing it. They're all very sneaky. They're all very unlikable, but they're all quite funny and they all add a layer of nuance to the story that I think is quite compelling and interesting. There's a lot of swearing in it. There's a lot of very graphic violence in it, but I think if you can get beyond that, you will find an interesting, ultimately revenge tale that I really enjoyed and that I think you will really enjoy. It's quite a chunky, it looks like quite a chunky book, but it reads very quickly because Cameron Johnston's prose is quite simple, and because of the way that he paces the book, you'll fly through it. Next, we have another book that you could classify as a standalone, though I believe the author is writing a trilogy out of it, and that is the Blackstone Thief by Christopher Buehlman. Very similar to the Maleficent 7 in the sense that it's very funny, but yeah, again, we have these very morally grey characters. I mean, all of these books will have morally grey characters because they're grimdark, right? And a big part of grimdark is the fact that you have very morally grey characters. But the Blackstone Thief centres around 2 main characters. Well, the main character and this kind of side character, but she's very much a main character who is helping him on a quest, helping him achieve something, and they just get into trouble. You know, it's full of banter, it's full of laughs, but it's very violent, and again, the characters aren't particularly likable, but yet you still feel for them and you still want them to win in a way. So if you're looking for something very similar to the Maleficent 7 that's fast-paced and that isn't a big commitment, then I definitely recommend the Blackstone Thief. Next, we have one of the fathers of grimdark, I would say, and that is the Broken Empire trilogy by Mark Lawrence. This was actually my first grimdark that I read, and it honestly shocked me in ways that I didn't anticipate that it would, but in all the right ways, because obviously I read a lot of grimdark now and I'm very keen to read more Mark Lawrence. Prince of Thorns is the first book in the trilogy, and we are essentially following a very, very messed up individual. I feel, like I said before, all of these characters are very morally grey, but the main character of the Broken Empire trilogy is a very special kind of messed up. And we do get a lot of nuance with that character, and we do get a lot of interesting backstory to that character later on in the series that make him very compelling and make you feel a kinship to him, I would say, in a way that you don't with many evil, messed up individuals. I don't think he's that evil, actually. Like, I think he's just really messed up. But just because you're messed up, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're evil. Prince of Thorns, or Broken Empire trilogy in general, you know, it's a very It's quite a narrow world, so if you don't want something where you're going to have to learn about lots of different places and names and stuff like that, then I think this is quite a good entryway, whereas something like the First Law has a lot of different places and names and stuff that you have to remember. Whereas with the Broken Empire trilogy, it's a lot more simplistic in that way, which is why I think it would be a good beginner. Bear in mind, there are a lot of trigger warnings for that series, so I would recommend checking out those trigger warnings in case you just want to double check before you start it. And then last but not least, we have an urban fantasy grimdark, and this is one that I don't see talked about much at all on BookTube, and that is the Eric Carter series by Stephen Blackmore, the first book being Dead Things. Now, this was a series that was recommended to me by a good friend of mine. Books are very short, they're like 200 pages long, they're very small, you could get through them in a couple of hours. They're so easy to consume, and they're just fun. You know, Eric, the main character, is very morally grey, and he's done some very messed up things, and yet again, you feel like there's a lot of layers to this person. And I've only read the first 2 books now. We're only barely scratching the surface of this individual, and I'm very excited to see where that goes. The good thing about this one is that it's set in the real world. It's set in LA, if I remember correctly. I've heard that it spans other places in the US as well. The humor is really good. It is very, very violent, and it's very graphic. Bear that in mind. But again, if you're okay with that stuff, then this is a good quick one that you can use as kind of palate cleansers. That's kind of how I've been approaching it. When I need like a quick pace fantasy read that has an interesting main character, then this is the series that I pick up or plan to pick up. So there we have it. Those are 5 beginner grimdark fantasy books or series that I think you should start with. I will be doing another video on this specifically for beginners. I'll also be doing one for more advanced grimdark readers as well. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any of the recs, let me know, and I'll see you down in the comments. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.